So unless I come up with something really interesting, this will probably be the last Nightmare Raid video I put out for a while. This video comes at the request of a couple people in the comments section who said, what if I don't have Destina or Ray built? How can I beat Juleeve Council? So here's a team that doesn't use Ray or Destina. In this team for a healer we'll be using Landy on Bloodstone and Rowana as our principal healers. Now Landy can be replaced with Ray or Destina, Rowana can also be replaced with Ray or Destina, and I have in another video where I used Bologna instead of Landy. I think Landy is just better, but she is limited, so you could use Green Bologna. Vivian is going to be one of our immunity spammers. She's pretty important to this fight, and everybody should have her. You want to run her on her third exclusive equipment to add cleanses to her skill, because cleanses are very important in this fight. We don't have many source of cleanses. I've got her on Time Matter just because that's what she's on for my Banshee runs, but Daydream Joker would probably be a better artifact for her in this fight. She really doesn't need Time Matter at all. Second unit on the team is going to be Zahak. Zahak is also a cleanser and brings decent damage to the team. I have him on his S1 to help continue the attack buffs. I have him on Symbol of Unity because that's what he's on for RTA. He would be better on Daydream Joker, of course. Rowan is going to be our primary healer. The Juleeve Council does a lot of double hits, proccing Rowan's passive, so she'll constantly spam heals, and her shields help reduce the damage of the Venom debuffs. I've got her on Stella Harpa to try to help stay on top of the debuffs, but you could really run her on just about any Soul Weaver artifact. And last is my secondary healer, Landy, on Bloodstone. Landy brings a lot of damage to the fight, and she spams healing. My Landy is pretty fast and built mostly for damage. If you slowed her down and gave her some more tankiness, it would actually be better for this fight. I did have some trouble last night with Landy dying a couple of times in the fight. Now Kazran is probably the best Guardian for this fight. He gives everybody attack buff, and he helps reduce the turns on the debuffs on you, so he is somewhat of a cleanser. Now, alternates to this team, you can replace Landy with Bologna, you could replace Rowana with Ray or with Destina, you could replace Zahak with, you know what, you could just run this Vivian and one other damage dealer, and then two of the three healers I just mentioned. It doesn't take any one of these specific units. About the only one that's really important, in my opinion, is Vivian, mostly because she cleanses and she spams immunity and attack buff, and all three make this fight a lot easier. Now, when you eventually get to this first mini-fight, the greedy Raxic flying troop, the Raxic can steal buffs, so you don't want to use Rowana's S3, or he can steal the Ray's buff, which can be a pain in the butt. The most important thing is that you kill the Raxic first, so no AoE attacks. Everybody just single target attacks into the big B in the back, and the reason for that is if you kill any of the front mobs, every time a front mob dies, it gives buffs to the boss. And those buffs can include multiple continuous healing buffs, really large barriers, even immortality and evasion. It just makes the fight take forever. So just single target kill the back mob, and once it's dead, then you can turn auto back on. Easy as that. Make sure for the last fight in that hallway you turn off your skills so that you can have all of your skills ready for the council fight, and then camp to top off your morale.
We can't fully understand the hardships others experience. We can only imagine. However, sometimes a single word of comfort can ease another's pain.
Though it was short-lived, there was a time where I was happy. Of course, that's been shattered into pieces now.
Okay, before you jump in, you can drink your blue potions to make sure your health is as topped off as it can be, and then we do the fight. Now, as you can see, the double attacks by the mosquitoes do heal up your team. Zahak with his S2 can cleanse one unit. I'm choosing to cleanse Landy and push her up.
Comes at unexpected moments.
I'm at the scene.
And Landy can S3 just to give everybody a speed buff.
That's an order. Very.
Vivian's EE will cleanse one of the debuffs off of everybody and give the all-important immunity skill to everybody that will hopefully help keep some of these debuffs off the team. There's no real reason to use my S3 yet. Nobody's hurt, so I'm going to save it, just S1. This puts a barrier on Vivian, so when that Venom skill goes off, it's not going to do any damage to her. Except the bee broke the barrier. Well, he didn't break the barrier, so we're still good.
I've done my part.
Step back.
And as you can see, the Venom went into the barrier. That's one of the nice things about Rowana, is her barriers can help reduce the damage of Venom. Now, something important to consider when you're building this team, I know I rattled off a whole bunch of different healers that you can use. You want to make sure that you have units that have 10 soul burns for the last phase. Vivian has a soul burn, but it's on her S2. It's only 10 souls, but her S2 does cycle every other round. The reason Zahak is so favored in this fight is he can soul burn his S1 and it's only a 10 soul burn and it does great damage. Now, Landy and Rowana both can soul burn, but their soul burns are on their S3s, so they have long cooldowns, and they're also 20 soul burns. Now, to avoid getting hit with the ultimate, I went ahead and used Kazran to push phase. Just buying myself a little bit of time so I can dodge the Mosquito's S3, which would do a tremendous amount of debuffs. If you have all green heroes on your team, the Mosquito that you need to target will be lit up in gold. If you have somebody on your team who's not a green unit, you're back to guessing which one is the target. So that's one of the main reasons to have an all-green team. The other reason is you get that target debuff on the correct batch of mosquitoes, so you do more damage. I think it's about 50% more damage.
Very interesting.
Vivian's S1 will hit harder than her S2. That's another reason time matter is not necessarily the best choice in this fight.
I'm all ready.
And that gets us through pretty clean. We didn't take any injury damage, so everything's moving along quite nicely.
Let me show
Again, I'm going to S3 just for the buffs to help cycle everybody quicker, the CR pushes, and also to ramp up Landy's damage.
Prove your worth.
Now, you'll notice the ultimate bar that is right below the HP bar for the boss. You see it's already lit up one notch. When it gets lit all the way up to where the white R is ready, that means the next attack from the mosquitoes is going to be its ultimate. Its ultimate is an AoE strip, and it puts heal block on your units. So you want to make sure that you save your Kazran for that, or that you're ready with a whole bunch of debuff or a bunch of cleansing skills. The last thing you want to do is like put up Vivian's S3 right before that attack happens, and then her S3 gets completely stripped off. So do pay attention to the cycling of the boss. Attack boots on Landy would probably have been a good idea here as well to help push it through even faster. Okay, so the white R is lit up on the boss's ultimate, so the next attack he does will AoE strip and put heal block and debuffs on everybody. So if I can't push phase, I just need to be ready for that. So there's the attack, buff block and heal block. Well, only Rowana ate the heal block, which is fortunate. That heal block can go on everybody. Zahak's ready with his cleanse. Zahak's cleanse happens before he applies attack buff, so I should still get the attack buff, which I did.
Why not surrender?
I know I won't get the speed buff, so I'm going to go ahead and save the S3 and just do an S1.
You're getting in my way. Trivial creatures.
Hopefully this pushes phase. Wow, that did not hit for anything. I could use Kazran to push phase, but I really want to save some souls for the last stage where we need to soul burn constantly.
Can't you handle this?
Stella Harpa putting in work.
As much as you can.
There we go. Now we're into the second split phase. Again, the target mob lights up.
Interesting.
I'm going to go ahead and use Kazran to try to get rid of some of these debuffs because they're going to really hurt my max HP.
Leave it to me. I must be brave. May the light.
I'm using the S3 here mostly because it puts a barrier up. The barrier gets stripped away, but it will keep the venom from doing any damage to her. You can go ahead and cleanse the venoms off of Landy.
Getting in my way.
I'm at the scene. Requesting approval. And granted. Removing restrictions. Charge!
Are you confident?
Step back.
Prove your worth.
The injuries from the venoms are starting to add up. I'm going to save the S3 for the last phase. Bloodstone healing nicely. And now it's just a race to the bottom. Now, the Juleeve Council has the little frowny face icon up. It's a frenzy buff that makes him hit harder, move faster. You need to soul burn to get rid of it. Every time you soul burn a skill, that goes away. You can usually take it on the chin once, but once you get to the second level, you'll notice the angry face gets angrier after the Juleeve Council takes a turn. And now it's going to hit even harder. So you want to make sure you try to stay on top of that and not let that buff get worse. So I'm going to save Vivian's burn because I plan to burn Zahak here instead.
I'll do my best.
Push Landy up, and then we can soul burn the S1, and with the soul burn, the buff goes away. Now it'll come right back as soon as he takes a turn, but it comes back at its base level, so you just keep soul burning to stay on top of it.
I won't run anymore.
Rowanna's soul burn is 20 souls, so I'm instead going to wait and soul burn Vivian. Since her soul burn's only 10 souls, it leaves me more souls to soul burn again next round.
Leave it to me. You didn't see this coming.
Now, he's ready to do his ultimate. And now I gotta live with a whole bunch of heal blocks for at least one round before I can have Zahak start cleansing this away. We'll soul burn his S1 to get rid of the buff and continue to chip him down.
I must be brave. Leave it to me.
Very interesting.
I can soul burn Vivian.
Prove your worth.
And now I can cleanse the heal block off of Rowanna. Oh, I didn't get the heal block cleansed. Oh well, we'll still rip the S3, try to get a maximum damage out of this hit.
Step back. May the
Yeah, there's no reason not to. The only person who's not going to benefit from this heal is Rowanna herself. And she's a tanky girl. The shields will help. This gets everybody pushed up. And then Zahak will be ready to soul burn and get rid of the buff.
Resist as much as you can.
Are you confident?
Okay, I didn't expect that, but thankfully Landy had the revive buff up. So this is what I meant before, where it would be okay to drop Landy's speed and give her a little bit more tankiness, because she does struggle a little bit staying alive, built as fragile as mine is.
Ready. Destruction.
Go ahead and cleanse with our S3 and get attack buff on everybody.
Leave it to me.
Resist as much as you can.
Soulburn S1 would probably finish it off here, but just to make sure I'll use the S2 to unlock my S3, and that will definitely drive it home.
Creatures don't deserve to live.
So for those of you struggling without Destina or Ray on your team, here's a good alternative for you. I hope that this combination of units will help unlock this, what is in my opinion the more difficult of the Nightmare bosses. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments section. And as always, like and subscribe. Have a great one, everybody.